So tell me a little bit about your journey. So you started off as a cynic and now
Very much
a
so.
non. Um, how did that happen? Where did you start? Where are you now?
I started off, as I said, I started off as a cynic. I started off partly as a cynic, and I also think partly as teenage rebellion, just rebelling against my mother and my aunt and like everybody else, and going, no, I need evidence, I need proof. I ended up working as a massage therapist. Now, I say ended up, I am totally sure that was what my journey was supposed to be. I know that I was supposed to be there. Just, I'm a bit stubborn at times. I have been, should watch the language. I have been a bit stubborn at times in the past. Maybe I can still be at times. And I was like, no, this is one day. Anyway, I ended up as a massage therapist and I was a sports massage therapist, remedial massage therapist, because that was scientific. Like it was all about the anatomy, the muscles. This did that, that did, if you did this, it was going to affect that. And it just made sense. It was logical, made sense. Until I had one client who I'd been working with for a couple of years quite regularly. Originally, had come to me with hip pain, hip discomfort, hip pain. And yeah, there was some muscle weakness in there. There'd been some hip issues anyway. They'd had that resolved. There were some muscle weaknesses. There were definitely some trigger points, some areas where the muscle was damaged. And we knew this partly because she was also seeing a doctor and she was seeing a chiropractor, I think at the time. It was a chiropractor or an osteopath. Anyway, she was seeing a chiropractor, but we had scans. Like I had imaging, I had pictures that she was showing me so we could see what the situation was. And I've been working with her for 2 years, and we got to the point where physically I knew that there was nothing wrong. Like the muscle now was healthy. There were no more sort of strains, tears, trigger points in the muscle. We'd been working at it. So I was also a personal trainer. That's how I ended up in this industry. Um, so we'd been working with like the rehabilitation exercises to get the muscle strength up. And she was doing really well. And the doctor was sort of like, yeah, everything's good. Hips are in alignment, that everything's tracking well. But she was still experiencing the discomfort and the sort of like the immobility and sort of problems moving in that sense. And I was just sort of like, there's there's something else going on in here. And it's sort of like, right, what is this? What could it be? I had been told by one of my clients that I'd have been asked, have you ever sort of like considered Reiki? Your hands get very hot when you're working. I'm like, no, why would I want to do that? Massage. It's like, no. Um, anyway, and I don't know what changed, whether or not it's the fact actually, maybe I do looking back on it, I got curious. I was
Mm.
sort of like, oh, like the bit of me was like, right, what's going on? And I was actually kind of asking the question out loud, really more as a sort of like, not because I believed actually in a higher, in angels, and for me it's universe at the time, but just because it was sort of like I do talk to myself, I'm like what's going on? She came along. I was working on. She was a woman. I was working on her, and I might have said that. And I got to a point where I was working on the hip, and suddenly I came out in like I was sweating, not just a little bit warm, feeling a bit like beads of sweat dripping down my face, dripping on my nose. And I was sort of like, this is it weird, it's winter. I was in Cyprus, so working in 40-degree heat without air conditioning. Yes, I did sweat at times, but this was not summer. And it was like, this is really weird. And I started to feel quite nauseous and quite sort of uncomfortable. I was like, this really is weird. So I sort of left, carried on, went, worked up on a different part of the body. Sensations went away like instantly. And it was sort of like, okay, that's weird. And thank God she was face down, because I literally then started going back over to the hip up. Like I was doing that with my work. The moment I was on the hip, I was like, kind of thing. And the moment I moved away, it went. So I started sort of like just saying, what's going on? What are you thinking at the moment? Well, I was working on the hip. What's happening? What's been going on in your mind? What's going on in life? And she just went, oh, it's a big sigh. Get this. And this was me actually then just saying what came into my mind. I said, I get the sense you're feeling quite stuck. And she went, how did you know? And suddenly it came out. Suddenly, all this emotion, all this sort of like, about 15 minutes, she just talked about how stuck she felt in life, how stuck she felt in her relationship, how she didn't know how she'd got here. She didn't know how she'd ended up in this point, and she didn't know how to move forward. And she just, like, it was all just too much. And then she started crying. And, we finished session. I just sort of held space for her, asked her a few more questions, kind of offered a couple of suggestions on maybe what she could do to help her move forward. Maybe it would be worth talking to a counselor. Maybe it'd be worth doing some, journaling. Google wasn't a thing back in those days, so you can't Google it. So it was doing all that. And, the session ended. She left, was due to see her again in 2 weeks. She came back in 2 weeks and said, how are things going? How's the hip feeling? She said, you know what? I haven't had anything. It's fine. Like, it's been absolutely great. I feel strong. I've been able to get up the stairs easily. I feel confident coming downstairs. And to me, it was sort of like, whoa, hang on a second. This is like that energy, that emotion that she'd been feeling, it got stuck in the body.
Yeah.
And through the massage, through the talking, through, transferring of energy, I later thought it, we were able to actually shift it, process it, move forward. And so that's how I started getting into the idea of, well, that was the first thing that made me think, oh, maybe all these hippies are actually talking some sense. Maybe there's something in all of this that actually, maybe something to it. I then moved to Ibiza. I was in Cyprus for 10 years. I then moved to Ibiza, to the north of the island, which is a mecca, I would say, for alternative therapies and alternative healing and all sorts. And that's when I kind of really started to just open my mind. And I'm not going to say some of it, I still think, okay, placebo effect maybe. But then at the end of the day, what does that matter?
Yeah.
What does it matter? I mean, my mother was a homeopath and they had one pill, which was basically just the same as all the others, but without anything on it, because the placebo effect is so powerful. There was a New Zealand surgeon I read about while I was, this is while I was still doing massage, who actually did studies on the placebo effect and with people with herniated discs. So he would go in, and his question was why are some people, like, he was doing the same procedure on everyone, was why are some people having massive transformations and healing from this and other people aren't? So he did a study, had 100 people in, half of them basically were wheeled into, they were admitted into the clinic, they were wheeled into surgery. They would have the local anesthetic. It wasn't, they'd have the local anesthetic put in. They would open a vial because the smell of chemical cement that they would use to fuse vertebrae smells like nail polish remover, apparently acetone. So they would break a vial, so the smell would go into the room as if it's in the same way as it would have done if they were having a procedure. They'd have the pressure applied to their back as if they were having the cement inserted, and then they'd be taken back to the ward, for recovery. So 50% had this sort of like non-procedure done, and the other 50% would have the actual procedure done of having the surgical cement, having their vertebrae sort of fused to review. 97% of them got up the next day, walked around as if cured. At which point it was sort of like, it is all in the mind to some extent. So placebo, non-placebo, if a modality works for a person, if it gets them to where they need to be, physically, emotionally, spiritually, fantastic.
Yeah.
But also it was then I did actually train in Reiki, became a Reiki master. This is my stubbornness coming out. So I did do that. I started incorporating and this idea that the energy of the emotions get stuck in our body. And this was probably, 2015, 2016, and started then working with actually talking. My clients never were quiet in the treatment room, encouraging them to talk about whatever came to mind in the treatment, in the massage. I would say whatever came up for me as well, because I knew it was was sort of me picking up what was going on with them, and that was it. And yeah, and that's how I became less cynical, shall we say.
Um, yeah, I'm still cynical about Reiki. I would
Right.
love to not be. We can come to that, but there's a couple of things that I could pick up on what you've said about cynicism and your journey. So one is, it sounds like it's really important to come to it in your own time.
Yeah.
And the other is, well, I think sometimes people might think that the opposite of cynicism is open-mindedness or gullibility, but you used the word curious, which I really liked.
Yeah. I get the sense I open-mindedness, because when you were talking, I was thinking, what is it? What changed? And it's I became open-minded and curious about what was possible, what was available about, and I became less judgmental about what I thought people's what worked for people. But I stopped thinking I knew what worked best or that someone else knew what worked best and just sort of trusted actually whatever it works. Great at the end of the day. Um, that gullibility, I was always called as a child, I was always told I was quite gullible. And
Oh,
maybe that put me into this place of I am not going, I'm not going to believe everything I'm told in some ways. In other ways, I think I'm still quite gullible. Um, Especially if someone mentions chocolate, I will, yeah, well, okay, do whatever. But it's the curiosity about what is possible. Coming to it in your own time is the only way. None of us, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can share my experience, I can share, but until you decide that you're going to give it a go, that you're going, and that's where I think the placebo works. Until you decide that's going to work, it doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter, and it could be the most conventional sort of approach. If you don't believe in it, it's not going to work. So being curious, being open-minded to the fact that actually what I'm going to talk from what I've been told by other people isn't necessarily always true.
mm,
What I believe to be true now is what I've seen happen.
yeah.
And even with, so I started in October, I started this, it came from a Joe Dispenza video I'd been watching on YouTube. I am journaling so here's another one going back to vibration. I am is the closest in our language, and especially in the English language, to the sound om.
Oh, yeah.
And om in terms of Hindi is the first sound of the universe, but also actually when you chant om, the beginning bit, and then I went into after this, I went down a whole rabbit hole of why is om the first sound, what's it do, the science of it. The first of all, these three sounds, are the only three sounds that we can make without using the tongue.
Mm,
And if you actually make the sound you can feel the vibration down in the base in it's Sanskrit, in Hindi, in Ayurveda, in the root chakras, in the lower chakras, in the lower energy centers. The sound, the U sound, we feel in the chest, in the upper part. And then if you go for the which is closed mouth, actually you can feel that vibrating through your head.
yeah.
So that sound opens up all of these, all the energy centers within the
The
body.
incorporates all of them. And I
Yeah.
am. Oh,
I am is the closest, then in English, I am is the closest to that sound. So when we use the words I am with anything, whether or not it's talking about what we believe we are, what we want, I am, we are basically sending a message out to the universe, and the universe will reply to that.
so if you
Because
if you say to yourself, as a lot of people I know do, I
mhm,
am stupid
yeah,
because you drop something, you spill something, you break something, I'm stupid.
yeah,
Again, it's another of those harsh words with the hard P and the hard D and the hard
yeah.
stupid. What does that do?
It's kind of giving yourself a slap around the face, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's my Southeast London bit.
No, it's
But
totally, totally.
it's kind of slapping yourself around. But also, what you do then is that you tell the universe that you're stupid, that you want more stupid, so it's going to show you more ways in which you're stupid. If we also take it to the brain, and this was something I learned from Marissa Peers, that the brain is actually as interesting, is capable and clever and intricate as it is also the most subservient organ that we have. And whatever we say, it will do. And again, I heard it from Marissa Peers, and then I practiced it. And I actually, first of all, practiced it on my daughters, and then I practiced on me, because there is nothing quite like a 6 and an 8-year-old to prove something wrong, if it's provable wrong, to be quite honest. And also, whatever I say to them, they're like, nah, nah. No. So if we say to ourselves, I'm tired, and if we say, I'm tired, your body, your brain is going to go, oh, quick, she wants to be tired, make her tired, do what we can, right, make her tired. And within, not long, you'll find yourself lying on the sofa going, oh God, I've got no energy, I can't do anything. Well, so if we say, I'm stupid, if we keep saying I'm stupid, and the brain's going to go, oh, right, she wants to be stupid. Okay, how can we get her to be more stupid? We can make her feel more stupid by other people seeing it, the way she perceives other people. We can get her not remembering her words. So, all of these things, and it will go into overdrive and go, okay, how can she be? So what we put after I am, it is like crucial, that is empowering and uplifting and honest. And where I say, and some people, so have you ever been told or heard this sort of like the mantras? Well, you want to believe yourself, stand in front of the mirror and go, I am beautiful, I am lovable. And there's a bit of your brain going, yeah, not convinced about that. Yeah, not really sure. Which I know from experience, but I also hear from a lot of other people. I choose to believe that I am beautiful.
I'm ready to believe that I am.
I'm
Yeah.
ready to believe, when we can use language again to actually make it more comfortable in our body, because we have to actually, that we need to believe it. The moment there is a bit of our brain going, I'm not sure about that,
Yeah.
then it's game over. There's absolutely no point. So where did I go back? October, started this mantraing thing, 12 minutes in the morning of writing out I ams, all different I ams. I am clever, I am beautiful, I am competent, I'm using my time wisely, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm consistent in the actions that keep me physically healthy. All of these things, it doesn't matter, but just keep writing quite automatically. And then afterwards, reading them out, read them in your mind, read them out loud, because again, we want the vibration, we want the movement, we want to feel it in the body, and then feel it. Because that when we can feel these things happening, again, we change our energy, we change our frequency, we change our vibration. Have you ever heard the saying, like attracts, your vibe attracts your tribe? Well, yes, your vibe attracts way more than just your tribe. Your vibe attracts everything in the world, everything in your reality. So, and if we go into it again, the frequency and of different emotions, like gratitude and love are at the top, anger and hate at the bottom, and all of that, but slightly energy related, but stick to one story. So I started doing this exercise, and it said do it for 28 days. And I was sort of like, okay, I'll do it for 28 days. I'm not doing it a lot. And I think it was day 2, I realized that something in me had changed. Like, I had a couple of projects that I'd been dancing around, and I'd pick up and I'd put down and I'd go, oh, I'm not ready to do this. And I'm not, all of that goes on in our minds when we have to do something a little bit out of the comfort zone.
Mm.
And suddenly I'd done them. I was sort of like, oh, where did that happen? And when I looked back over some of the things I'd been writing, I am doing the hard stuff. I am confident. I believe in myself. I am believing in myself. All of these, I was sort of like, oh, maybe there's something to this. So I carried on. And I'm still doing it pretty much every day. I will still do it every morning because it works. And I don't do things if they don't work. This works. Like, things have happened, opportunities have shown up. I've got, work that I'm just sort of like, what changed? Because I've been working for this for a long time and nothing. And then suddenly something's changed. What's changed? I've changed. My energy changed. My vibrations changed. That's what's changed.